Hello, ladies. Thank you very much for having me today. Let me tell you how detailed God is into the intricacies of our life. That same devotional I brought with me this morning to read to you today.
Oh, wow.
That very same devotional, because it parallels everything I'm going to say. So it set the framework up very nicely. And my prayer today is that God showers this place with His love and His presence. He's already here, and I'm believing that as I just talk to you, that the love of God will just pierce your heart today. So, my name's Dana Slager. Just a quick background, I came to the coast in '99. My parents have a church here that's been going on for 13 years. This is my mom. I'm very blessed that she's with us today, Nancy Slager. And my background is in media. I'm a journalist. I worked with Tammy at the Sun Herald for a few years. Love that lady. And Robin, just in front of all these women, I want to honor you and thank you for the work that you've done on the coast. Because what you've done here is an extension of the kingdom, and you've marked this area with your passion to join women together. So I thank you for what you've done. I'm a writer, which means I'm a storyteller. So I just want to share my heart today with some stories about some things that I've had to walk through and how it has impacted my life, which has allowed God to extend that impact and influence to other people's lives. It is all for the glory of God that I'm here. It is to honor His name. Anything I say and do is to bring honor to Him, because that's just my heart. Last year, in January of last year, I went to the Sundance Film Festival. It was an amazing opportunity for my school. I'm currently working on my PhD in communication. So one of the classes is you can do study abroad in Park City, Utah at the Sundance Film Festival. I study media and culture, so that's the perfect venue to check it out. But when I was there, all of my friends were getting these amazing, what I call God moments. They were running into directors and actors and making these divine connections, and I wasn't getting anything. And I'm like, really, God? What is the deal? Can I please have a God moment before I leave? That would just be awesome. By the end of the trip, I'm sitting in a theater, and I'm waiting for the movie to start, and all of a sudden I hear, "But Dana, you are my God moment." And when I heard that, it hit me to the core. Because it's not about sometimes these connections and meeting people. We're designed to be an extension of heaven that connects heaven and earth together. So when we walk around, we are the divine connection for people. We are the God moments. And that's kind of the story that I want to share today. It may tug on your heart a little bit, but I promise there's a redemptive purpose of why I'm telling you this. I didn't quite know what that phrase, God moment, would mean to me until a few months down the road, when in April, it's going to be a year this month, I got a call from one of my good friends, and she's like, "I want you to come have dinner with us. There's someone that I'm bringing along," and it was her new boyfriend, and I was working on school, and I was really busy, and I just wasn't ready to go out, but I felt the pressing, go ahead, take a break, go to dinner, meet them, encourage your friend. So we went to dinner, and it was good. When we left, I got in my car, I started driving, and I pulled up to the stop sign, and I was one of the first on scene of a motorcycle accident that had just happened. And I'm pulling up, and I see this body in the middle of the road. No police had shown up yet, no ambulance had shown up yet. And in that moment, all you can do is you just pray, "God, what do I do?" And I get out of my car, I run to the center of the stop sign, and there was a gentleman lying on his face. I'm going to spare you the details, but I already knew that he was no longer here, that he had passed away. So I'm just sitting there, and all I knew to do was just pray. I see some ladies run up, they try to start working on him, but I knew that it was too late. Out of the corner of my eye, I see a teenager on the corner, and he's having a panic attack. And I run over to him, and I grabbed him by his shoulders, and I said, "What is your name?" He said his name was Dylan. 16 years old, and I said, what happened? And he was having a panic attack. He was hyperventilating. He's like, I just killed somebody. I just killed somebody. He knew it. And so his life was dramatically impacted right there. And all I knew to do was I said, Dylan, are you a believing man? And he said, yes, ma'am. I said, then let's pray real quick. And I prayed with him right there on the corner. And in that moment, you don't really remember what you're praying and what you're saying. You're just trusting God. But I do remember just telling him, I remember asking God just to cover this scene, to cover Dylan. And I remember telling him, just tell the truth. Whatever happened, just tell the truth. And right when I finished praying, everyone started showing up, the police, the ambulance, everything. So what happened is my car, because I was the first on scene, it got stuck, and you can't back out until they're done finishing what they need to do. So I sat there and watched them process the scene, watch what happens when the coroner comes. And I tell you, I felt such an amazing presence of God because I knew where this young man was now. I felt the angels. I felt the presence of God at this scene. Despite the tragedy, I knew where he was. I've never felt anything like that before in my life, but I felt the presence of God at the scene of this accident. So I'm just kind of taking all this in. Finally, they let me out, and I come home, and I kick into journalist mode. And I immediately go to the Sun-Herald's website, and I wanted to know who this gentleman was, if they had posted a story on him yet. Around 11 o'clock that night, they finally came up with something, and I found out his name was Tom Weber. He was a 23-year-old CB who had just come home from overseas, and he wanted to take his motorcycle for a ride. And what happened was when I was talking to Dylan, I found out that Dylan just didn't see him on the road, and it was an accident. Dylan clipped him, and he just passed away. So on this story, I'm looking down at the comments, and I see this gentleman make a comment who I knew, who I was friends with, and I emailed him, and I told him, I said, I just want to let you know I was at the scene if you have any questions, because it turns out that my friend was this guy's neighbor. And the connections, that whole 6 degrees of separation, and I really don't, I believe it's divine connections is what I believe it is, and God will ordain you to be in people's paths. So this gentleman, who was friends with the person that passed away, I just let him know I was there. Let me know if you have any questions. Well, then I went to Facebook, and I wanted to see this guy's Facebook page and learn a little bit more about him. And I found out some more about Tom Weber, the gentleman that passed away, and I saw his mom make a comment from way back, and I clicked on her page, and I started looking through her things, and I saw that she loved God, she was a strong Christian, she had heard the news by then, and of course a mother. I'm not a mother. But for those of you out there that are mothers, I can't imagine the impact that this would have. No child is supposed to pass away before their parents pass away. And the thing about this, though, was this was her second son to pass away in the same way within a year. And she was in shock, and she could not believe this was happening all over again to her. Her other son, Dan Weber, was in the military, and he had just come home, and he had hopped on a motorcycle, and he got in an accident and passed away. So 2 sons, she has 3 sons, and it was her 2 youngest sons passed away within 1 year, and she was at a loss. And the only thing that was getting her by was her love for God. So it was very hard for me to see all this, and that's a lot to take in. A week later, I found out that the family was coming in town because the Navy was preparing a service because Tom served down here in the Seabees. And I got a call from my friend who, they were neighbors with this guy, Tom, and they said, if you want to meet the family, they'll be in town. You're welcome to come to the service. It's like, okay. So I prayed about it, and I felt like that would be okay. The Navy, you have to kind of go with their schedule. They had things planned for the family. I had to be flexible, so I was pretty much just on standby. Well, then I get a call from the gentleman's wife, and he says, well, plans have changed. Instead, the mom wants to meet you at Starbucks. Are you willing to go? Because she knew that I was there at the scene, and she wanted to talk to me. So I'm just praying, of course, yes, this is a God moment. Yes, I will go, and I will meet her. So I was just praying the whole time, and I remember just putting my makeup on in the mirror, and I hear this song, and I just really am just worshiping, just connecting with God, praying for wisdom in what I am to say to her, using wisdom in such a sensitive situation. And all of a sudden I hear God say, I want you to get a gift for her. And I want you to go to Lifeway, and I'm going to show you exactly what I want you to get her. I'm not going to tell you now, just go by faith before you go to Starbucks. And I said, okay, I can do that. So I go to Starbucks, and I go to Lifeway, and I'm walking around, and I'm just praying, and God directs me right to this section where they sell willow tree angels. Are you familiar with that collection? It's the faceless angels. Beautiful, beautiful set. And he's like, I want you to get that one right there. Well, this one angel was a little boy holding a gold heart, and the name of it was Heart of Gold. And God just gave me this download about Tom, her son, about how he had a heart of gold. And he was so loyal to his mom and loved her and treasured her and just made her feel like she had a heart of gold. So I knew what I was going to tell Miss Heidi. I picked up the gift, I got it wrapped, and I met her at Starbucks, and I'm sitting there at the table waiting for her to walk in. She walks in, we connect eyes, and she just starts crying. Because you have to think, I'm like the last extension to her son. I was there at the scene. She didn't know anything about me, and I just had the opportunity to minister to her. It was like a portal of heaven was right over our table. And she wanted to know some answers. She wanted to know what I saw. I spared her the details. She wanted to know how they worked on them. Just different things that a mom might want to know about that situation. And she was just very open. I mean, her heart was broken. Whose heart would be broken in that kind of situation? So I'm just talking to her, and I said, Miss Heidi, I have a gift for you. I felt like God put it on my heart to give you something. And when she opened it, she's like, I collect willow tree angels. How did you know this? And I'm like, I just prayed, and I just felt like this is what I needed to get to you. When she opened that up, she cried. And she said, that's my little boy. That's my little boy. And I got to tell her, I'm like, Miss Heidi, God just showed me how much your son had a heart of gold. And it was this musical one where you could turn and play music. And she was just crying. But you have to understand, in this situation, it's like God brought her peace. And it was a way of closure. And I got to tell her, Miss Heidi, I was there, and I felt God. And I know where your son is. I felt the angels. I felt the presence of God surround that place. And it was tragic, but amazing at the same time to feel the love of God for one that has passed. And one whose heart is committed to Him. And I knew where I was, and it just gave her this sense of closure. Yes, she was grieving, but it helped her a little bit along the way with the grief. And we just started talking about the connections and how everything, like everyone knew each other and how that could only be God. And I was also able just to tell her that I know you're grieving, but I know you're grieving with God. And just minister to her heart and just praying that God would smother her with His unconditional love in the way that only a father can do in that time. No man on this earth could ever do what God can do when you really need to feel a father's love. And that's what she needed at that time. So the friend that we were with at the table, she said, well, Miss Heidi, Dylan would like to meet you. Would you be okay with that? He's waiting at work right now for you, and he just wants to talk to you. So we're all sitting there, and I was waiting to hear what Miss Heidi was going to say. And again, Dylan was the one that hit her son, 16-year-old boy. And he was working at a restaurant here. And Miss Heidi said, yes, I do want to meet him. I just want to talk to him. Now think about that. Take that in for a second. This mom, who just lost her second son in the same way, was willing to meet with the young man who took her baby boy. Now this one was her baby. So we go up to the restaurant, and I see Dylan out in the parking lot, and he's waiting. And I see Miss Heidi get out of her car. And I tell you what happened, It's something I've never witnessed before in my entire life. I have never seen a more powerful display of forgiveness ever. And it's only by the grace of God that this woman could do this. It is only God that she could get out of her car and hug that young man and say, I forgive you for what happened. I forgive you. They sat there and they hugged for 5 minutes. They both cried. Dylan kept apologizing. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry I took your son. And Miss Heidi just covered him in love. Now that's a strong woman. And her moment of despair and her moment of grief to be an extension of God's love to someone who just ripped a part of her family away. That's forgiveness. And that is something only the work of God can do. So Dylan was really cute. He was like, well, are you guys hungry? Because my boss said y'all can have anything for free. And so it kind of made Miss Heidi laugh, and we're sitting there, and Miss Heidi was kind of hungry, and she's like, yeah, I'll take a Diet Coke and a taco. So we're sitting outside, and we're talking, and we had an opportunity to talk a little bit more with Dylan, and Miss Heidi said, now Dylan, you need to promise me you're going to stay on a path of the straight and narrow. You need to promise me this. We got to learn more details that they gave him a breathalyzer test twice, registered 0. There was no alcohol involved. He honestly just didn't see him. Miss Heidi got to ask him some more questions. He had already traded in the car. He got a better car. He was trying to do everything he could just to get his life right because that guy's life is shaken up. A 16-year-old boy is shaken up. So when Dylan said, I don't know what I would have done if I had to go to jail and not see my mom for 25 years because I can't live without my mom. Well, when he said that, I looked at Miss Heidi and she started to cry and she said, I need to go now. She knew when she needed to excuse herself. And she got up. We all hugged again. I mean, it was just God's love completely surrounded that whole scene. She got up, and Miss Heidi and I had decided to stay in touch with each other on Facebook, and a few days later she posted a picture. She had unpacked all of her willow tree angels, and she had the heart of gold willow tree angel next to her TV, and she posted this on Facebook. She told the story of why she agreed to meet Dylan. She said, I felt like I needed to meet him to forgive him, so that he could forgive himself. I won't say it was easy, it wasn't. And the longer I sat there with him, the harder it became. But I know that someday I will be glad. I had that healing moment for my soul, as well as his. My pain is horrific, and there is no escaping it. Yes, he was careless. Yes, he made a mistake that took Tom's life. But nothing I or anyone can do or say to him or about him will reverse what has happened. Tom is gone. I believe God arranged that meeting for Dylan and for me. God did not plan this awful tragedy, but I know that there will be blessings that follow. Nothing takes away the pain, but I know that if my eyes are open, I will see the blessings. Is that not a beautiful heart of someone who could say that about this young 16-year-old boy? See, forgiveness was important to her, and because she was walking with God, she knew the critical element of how forgiveness can factor in your life. And forgiveness is powerful. Unforgiveness is equally as powerful.